There comes a moment in your life, not when you fail, not when you lose, but when you finally understand something that changes you forever. You look at your phone. You look at the people around you, and it hits you. No one is coming. No one is going to save you. No one is going to believe in your vision before it works. No one is going to push you when you're exhausted. And if you fall, you're going to hit the ground alone. For most people, this realization destroys them. They collapse into self-pity. They ask why life is unfair. They wait for anyone to care. But a few people experience something different. For them, this moment isn't a breakdown. It's a turning point. If you're watching this, it's because you feel it. The quiet pressure. The sense that you're meant for more, but no one around you can see it. You're tired of explaining yourself. Tired of waiting for permission. Tired of hoping someone will finally understand. So here's the truth most people never accept. Needing support is not strength. It's dependency. The day you stop looking for someone to stand behind you is the day you learn how to stand on your own. This path is not comfortable. It will isolate you. It will strip away your excuses. It will force you to confront who you really are when no one is watching. If you're looking for motivation, encouragement, or a cheering crowd, leave now. This isn't for you. But if you're ready to become dangerous in silence, to build without applause, to move while the world sleeps, then stay. Because what you're about to hear is not meant to inspire you. It's meant to wake you up. Niccolò Machiavelli, writing in 16th century Florence surrounded by betrayal, political collapse, and shifting alliances, understood something that still terrifies people today. He wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." What did he mean? In his time, he watched princes fall not because they lacked power, but because they depended on the loyalty of others. They believed in fairness, reciprocity, human goodness. And they died for it. Today, it's infinitely worse because we've been conditioned to believe that asking for help is courage, that vulnerability is strength, that we need community to succeed. We've been sold a beautiful lie, that support systems are essential, that you can't do it alone, that isolation equals failure. But here's what Machiavelli understood that destroys this illusion entirely. The moment you need others, you give them power over your destiny. And they will use it. Not because they're evil, because they're human, self-interested, distracted, unreliable. This is the first mechanism, but it goes deeper. You've done this. You've shared your vision with someone you trusted, a friend, a family member, the partner, and you watched their face. That micro-expression, the slight pullback, the polite nod that says, "I don't believe you, but I'll pretend to." Machiavelli observed, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." In his time, he witnessed leaders reveal their strategies too early, trusting advisors who smiled while plotting their downfall. But today, it's more insidious because the betrayal isn't dramatic. It's passive. It's the friend who says, "That's great," but never asks about it again. The family member who changes the subject. The partner who supports you in theory but resents you in practice when your ambition threatens their comfort. You share your dream of starting a business. They say, "That's risky, maybe wait until you're more stable." You tell them about the discipline you're building, waking at 5 a.m., cutting out distractions. They laugh. "You're too serious. Live a little." You explain the commitment required, the sacrifices necessary. And slowly, subtly, they begin treating your dedication as obsession, your focus as coldness, your transformation as abandonment of who you really are. Here's what Machiavelli understood that most people miss. People don't want you to succeed beyond them. They want you to improve just enough to validate their own mediocrity, but not so much that it exposes their lack of action. Have you felt this in yourself? That moment when you realized the people closest to you were anchors, not wings? This is why dependency is death. Because the moment your success requires their belief, their energy, their approval, you've already lost. You've handed them veto power over your future. But it gets deeper. Most people operate under a dangerous assumption that relationships are inherently reciprocal. That if you're loyal, others will be loyal. If you give support, you'll receive it. This is fantasy. Schopenhauer wrote, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people." In his era, he watched people destroy their individuality to maintain social acceptance, to avoid the terror of standing alone. But today, this forfeiture happens algorithmically. You don't just suppress yourself for the people in front of you, you perform for audiences of thousands who will never meet you, never help you, never care if you disappear tomorrow. Consider what actually happens when you ask for support. You reach out to someone, a mentor, a colleague, a supposed ally. You explain what you're building, and they respond with interest. Maybe they offer advice. Maybe they introduce you to someone. You feel grateful, validated. You believe the alliance is real. Then you notice something. When you need them, they're busy. When they need you, you're expected to drop everything. Their support was transactional theater, a performance of helpfulness that costs them nothing and positions them as generous. Meanwhile, you've revealed your strategy, your weaknesses, your dependence on them. Here's what Machiavelli understood that shatters this illusion entirely. Alliances exist only as long as they serve both parties, and the moment your success becomes inconvenient, threatening, or irrelevant to them, the alliance dies. This is why seeking support is strategic suicide. Because you trade immediate comfort for long-term vulnerability. You gain the feeling of not being alone while creating dependencies that will destroy you when they inevitably collapse. But it gets deeper. There's a pattern you see in everyone who builds something real, something lasting, something that actually changes their life. At some point, they vanish. They stop posting, stop explaining, stop seeking validation from people who wouldn't understand even if they tried. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." In his time as Emperor of Rome, he was surrounded by sycophants, advisors, senators, all offering opinions, all demanding attention. Yet his meditations were private, written to himself, not for approval or applause. But today, we're conditioned to broadcast everything, to share our process, our struggles, our wins. We've been taught that building in public is courage, that documenting the journey is authentic. And while everyone is performing their productivity, their discipline, their transformation for an audience that doesn't care, they're bleeding attention, energy, and strategic advantage. You've experienced this. You start a new project with genuine excitement. You tell people about it. You post updates. And something strange happens. The more you talk about it, the less you do it. Because the validation you received from sharing it gave you the dopamine hit that should have come from actually accomplishing it. Meanwhile, someone else, someone you've never heard of, is working in absolute silence. No announcements, no updates, no explanations. They're not asking if it's a good idea. They're not seeking encouragement. They're not building an audience. They're building the actual thing. And one day, seemingly out of nowhere, they appear with results so undeniable that no one can question them. Here's what Machiavelli understood that gives you lethal strategic precision. Invisibility is power. When no one knows what you're building, no one can interfere. When no one knows your strategy, no one can sabotage it. When no one knows your timeline, no one can rush you or delay you. This is the advantage you've been searching for. But here's where Machiavelli's wisdom becomes truly powerful. Everything we've discussed, the dependency trap, the alliance illusion, the power of isolation, these are not problems. They're advantages. But only if you understand how to weaponize them. While others are paralyzed by the absence of support, desperately seeking someone to believe in them, you'll recognize that their need for external validation makes them predictable, controllable, and weak. While they're building consensus, asking for feedback, waiting for the perfect moment when everyone agrees, you'll be moving with strategic precision, making decisions based on reality rather than permission. While they're explaining themselves to people who will never understand, burning energy on convincing skeptics, you'll be conserving that energy for execution, for skill development, for the work that actually matters. Here's the tactical application. Treat your vision as classified information. Share nothing until it's so undeniable that words are unnecessary. When people ask what you're working on, give them nothing. A smile. A vague answer. Let them think you're not doing anything at all. Meanwhile, you're operating on a completely different frequency. While they're seeking support, you're building competence. While they're networking, you're learning. While they're waiting for conditions to be perfect, you're adapting to conditions as they are. Machiavelli spent years in exile, stripped of position, abandoned by allies. He didn't write The Prince seeking approval. He wrote it in isolation, distilling brutal truth that has survived 5 centuries because it was based on observation, not popularity. You have the same choice. You can keep seeking support, hoping someone will finally see your potential, waiting for conditions to align. Or you can accept the one truth that changes everything. You already have everything you need. Not because you're special, but because success has never required permission. It requires competence, discipline, relentless execution when no one is watching. The person you were last year couldn't do what you're about to do. They needed encouragement. They needed validation. They needed someone to tell them it was possible. But here's the truth that brings peace. That need was never real. It was conditioning. Society trained you to seek approval because dependent people are controllable. They wait. They ask. They comply. This will never change. You cannot fix it, cannot alter it. You can only accept it. And in that acceptance, you find freedom. This week, your challenge is uncomfortable. When someone asks what you're working on, when they try to extract your vision, your strategy, your timeline, give them nothing. Not because you're secretive, because your energy is too valuable to waste on explanations that serve you nothing. Write in the comments, "I'm building in silence." Not as a declaration, as a commitment. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not to make people comfortable, but to make them powerful. The truth is you don't need support. You never did. What you needed was permission to stop seeking it. Consider this that permission. Now disappear and build something undeniable. If you've made it this far, something has already changed. Most people don't stay. They get uncomfortable. They feel exposed. And they run back to noise, distraction, and easy comfort. But you didn't. Which means you've already learned the truth most people avoid for their entire lives. This was never about loneliness. It was about ownership. When you stop needing support, you stop being controlled. When you stop asking for permission, you stop being delayed. When you stop waiting for approval, you finally move at your own speed. That empty space around you, the silence, the lack of messages, the absence of applause, it was never a curse. It was room. Room to think clearly. Room to build without interference. Room to become dangerous in the only way that matters, through discipline, skill, and results. One day, the same people who doubted you will return. They'll speak softly. They'll smile. They'll say they always believed in you. You won't argue. You won't explain. You won't seek closure. You'll simply understand. Because you didn't build this for them. You built it when no one was watching. And that's the difference between someone who survives and someone who owns their life. This path isn't popular. It isn't comfortable. And it isn't meant for everyone. Most people will hear this and go back to chasing validation. Back to crowds. Back to excuses. But if you're still here, you already know you were never meant to blend in. There are ideas, strategies, and truths that can't be shared publicly. Not because they're mysterious, but because most people aren't ready to take responsibility for them. If you want to stay on the surface, that's fine. You'll get motivation. You'll get insight. You'll get enough to keep moving. But if you want to go deeper, past comfort, past excuses, past illusion, that path exists for those who are willing to walk it alone. Either way, remember this. You didn't need permission to start. You won't need approval to finish. And when the room is silent, that's not absence. That's authority.